Dear Cinnaminson, and here we are. The first 7 years of my education and life in Cinnaminson ended when I left the middle school's doors and entered Cinnaminson High School. My freshman year at Cinnaminson was great. I hit the ground running and picked off exactly where I left off in middle school. I ran for class office, even though nobody ran against me, and I adapted quickly to high school, even though I walked through the hallways 4'11" soaking wet. Freshman year didn't come without the bumps on the road, which it eventually did happen. I remember exactly when I was in charge of selling homecoming tickets during lunch, and I did not sell them in like numerical order. So I'll sell them like 23 and they'll be like 68. It was a mess. I didn't even know, but I had to sell them in numerical order. There were like 20 people in line. I was like, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. But Miss Forbes went easy on me, so I thank you, Miss Forbes. Shout out, Miss Forbes. I remember flying through the first 3 marking periods, doing well in school, and then I remember I had a factoring quiz at the end of the 3rd marking period, and I knew how to factor, like, I'm telling you, like, I knew it at the back of my head, and then sat there, got the test in my hands, mine went blank. And it was sad, it was tragic. I had 86 in the class, man. I was thriving, and I didn't know how to do a single thing. Like, I could not believe it. Yeah, my grade went down a whole letter grade, like 10 points. Yeah, it wasn't good. And I was bummed, but I knew that it was a stumbling block for me to climb on top of and get back on top of what I was trying to achieve. And that's really what was exactly what I wanted. Now, I didn't want to fail, but I needed that in order to grow, personally grow. Building off the foundation of freshman year was important to me, and there were so many teachers that helped me along the way. So just like last part, I'm going to do a similar style. So Miss Barrett was my sophomore year geometry teacher, and I'm telling you, I learned literally, I was like a sponge in that class. Like, I've learned almost every concept that we learned that year. I knew it. And Miss Barron's always one of my favorite teachers. She always greeted me always with a smile, and always asked me how I was doing. And I learned so much that year. Thanks, Miss Barron. So one thing that was kind of like cool was that I started high school with the same math teacher that I ended with. So I had Miss Garland for pre-algebra freshman year, and then I had Miss Garland again for pre-calculus. So, I mean, Miss Garland was always one of the nicest teachers, always available, always ready to help her students, and she always was super creative, whether we had to do like foldables or like whatever. It was, I don't even know, man. Like, she was super creative with teaching math, and I enjoy it. Thanks, Miss Garland. Esposito was my marketing teacher and DECA advisor. Most teachers with, like, you don't expect a class to really like change your career trajectory, which taking marketing did. Like, initially I took the class because I was like, yeah, it's gonna be another easy GPA booster, you know the whole gimmick. But I realized getting into it, taking up DECA, that I became really passionate about marketing, and I found that that's what I want to do in the future. So I thank Ms. Esposito. She was always a great marketing teacher, always supportive, and I know that Cinnaminson will miss you, Ms. Esposito. Ms. Highland was my AP Lit teacher this year, and taking AP Lit for the first time, I was really skeptical because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do well, but I learned so much in Miss Hines' class. I grew a lot as a writer, and she helped me get the confidence to really get better at writing and really improve all my techniques. So thanks, Simon. Mr. Keston was my French teacher 3 out of the 4 years in high school. So I knew Mr. Keston very well. He got also a laid back but very firm approach to teaching, and I enjoyed French every single year that I had Mr. Keston. Like, if you knew that when you're going to your class, like, it was a class I was always looking forward to and always happy to be in. So thanks, Mr. Keston. So when I was in middle school, a little throwback, I took creative writing, and Ms. Laskowski was my creative writing teacher. And sophomore year, I had her for literature again, so a little familiarity. Miss Laskowski is one of the nicest teachers that I had. She was, every single time where I'll pass her in the hallway or class in the hallway, she would ask me how I'm doing, and I always like, I don't know how to say it, but grateful. That's how I would say it. But thank you, Miss Laskowski. All right, so I had junior year, I think it was junior year. I had Miss Preciado. She's no longer with the school anymore, but I think she was a permanent sub for 2 years or 1 year. I don't know, but she was the reason why biology was one of my favorite sciences. I did well in that class a lot, and I'm serious. If I didn't take marketing, I was thinking about biology because I enjoyed that class so much. Miss Preciado was a teacher that really helped me also gain my confidence in my own abilities. And I just thank you, Miss Preciado, for seeing, if you saw this. Thank you so much. Mr. Hercock was my string teacher since the 3rd grade. I took up playing viola because I didn't want to play the violin because I felt like everybody played the violin. I wanted to pick a different instrument, and it turned out that I love playing the viola. It has a richer tone. I love it, and I thank Mr. H for always pushing me and also everybody that took strings to be better and improve every single year. Even though unfortunately we won't have the opportunity to showcase what we learned over a stretch of 9 years under Mr. H in our last concert, we always will remember the times that we've had in strings, and words can express how grateful I am. Thanks, Mr. H. Mr. Fornum was my high school track coach, and I mean, basketball was originally my favorite sport, but I never expected track and field to be also one of my favorite sports. Coach always held the entire team accountable to do the right things, practice hard, give everything you have, and he would give everything he had to train us, coach us to be the best athlete that we can possibly be. He would always be, whenever he could, he would be running with his distance team, always kept in good shape. And he would always tell the entire team that we are not only a team, we're a program, that we do we do well year in and year out. And I haven't lost a dual meet in my really 3 years of doing track, but it was all good memories. Besides that, last summer, a lot of the seniors class of 2019 graduated, and they were really the meat of our sprinting team. And I decided over the summer that I was going to start training because I knew that we needed more people to help out with the sprinters. We had a ton of distance runners, and I started practicing hurdling, sprints, long jump over the summer, just trying to become the Swiss Army knife of the team. And that's a credit due to Coach, because he always told us that there are some students that would come in freshman year that wouldn't have the elite talent that some others do, but they come in, they put their hard hat on, they work and work and work, and they come out absolute great athletes, student athletes. and I saw that I had an opportunity to be a leader on as a senior for the track team, and I didn't want to let that opportunity go and pass away, you know. But even though we didn't have a track season, I don't even have any regrets of training so hard in the off season, and I just want to thank Coach so much. Thank you, Mr. Fornum. Mr. Picabo was my chemistry teacher in my junior year. The student-teacher dynamic in that class was unmatched. I'm telling you, he had a great relationship with all his students, and it showed in the type of chemistry, no pun intended, everything our class had. I still remember the reason why I had took chemistry with Mr. Picabo was because I had junior lunch, and his class didn't know I had junior lunch. So initially, I wanted to change my chemistry period in order to get senior lunch, but thank goodness I stuck with it, and the class was amazing. I mean, I still remember the times where he would set things on fire. I remember the big blown up head on the wall. Just great times in that class. Thank you, Mr. Picabo. I never had Mr. Moore as a teacher, but he was one of the track coaches that would be out there on the track. And I still remember freshman year, I was practicing long jump, and I did one rep, and then I finished it, and I got up, and he looked at me. He said, "You do it just like your sister." He's like, always looking at the line, and I laughed because my older sister did track, and she was a long jumper, and she was pretty good at it. And I mean, that words of advice was the same words that I used while training during this summer. So thank you, Mr. Moore. Add Miss Gavir for junior year gym. Yeah, so the reason why this Miss Gavir was probably one of my favorite gym teachers because I remember we played around the world, or what we call 3-ball in gym, almost all of the time, and I would lose a lot to some of my friends because I would go second and the person in front of me would just miss all the shots. So I asked Miss Severe if she could be my partner to shoot, and we won a lot of games. That's all I'll say. I had to trust Miss Gavir to make the shot so I could finish it off, but I gotta say thank Miss Gavir for the great times. I had Mr. Wilson for freshman survey English thing, I think. Yeah. So one thing I do remember Mr. Wilson for was the big gulp and the big gulp of Coke, and I still remember when we were reading Animal Farm and he got really passionate about Napoleon was brainwashing all the other animals. That's one thing I remember. I mean, that was a great class. There's a lot of good memories. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Matz was my AP History teacher this year, and to be honest, I learned the most from this class out of all the other classes I've taken this year. Surprising. I mean, not technically history-wise, but life-wise. That's what I would say. Over like my entire time of like taking school, I would just use my raw ability. Like, I forget there was a saying. It was like, raw talent without practice is never gonna get you to your full potential. You know what I'm saying? This year, most of the time I would always do good. I wouldn't have to study that much, and I thought taking AP History this year would be the same way until I hit a roadblock and I was not doing so well in this class. And I remember just struggling, and I thought that whatever all the information I knew wasn't good anymore, and my head wasn't working, and I got tired and angry. But I realized that I didn't put enough effort, and I need to start doing that in order to unlock everything in my brain. So the life lessons that I learned in this Mr. Math's class goes far past whatever I learned in those textbooks. Thank you, Mr. Maths. Smallville for computer science for 2 years. So taking a leap from an introductory computer science course to AP Computer Science A was a major leap. But Miss Morvo helped me believe that I could do it. She always was available to help me, and I always thank her for that. She always was there for her students and was ready to even go beyond the call of to help anybody. I mean, besides that, even though computer science really was not the thing I ultimately wanted to pursue as a career, if anybody needs me to write a couple lines of code, like, I got you. Thanks, Miss Morville. I mean, Cinnaminson High School would not be normal without Mr. Patrizzi, and no, I am not going to do an Patrizzi impression because it's going to be terrible. Mr. Patrizzi. Mr. Casey was my junior year math teacher. I think it was Algebra 2. Yeah, I had him for Algebra 2. And that year was fun. I had him the last period of the day. And if you didn't know already, the last period of math classes always go crazy. At the near the first part of the year was alright. Second half of the year, 12th period math isn't the greatest, but Mr. Casey's class was fun. I still remember when we had to do the sub project and we had to teach a concept. I'll put it here. I put a meme in the presentation. That class was great. That's all I gotta say. Thanks, Mr. Casey. Or known as Miss Kim was she didn't have taught a class, but she taught me tons of life lessons. Miss Kim was a teacher that I've known since the 3rd grade, and over the years we've done a lot of stuff together, like string fundraisers, and in high school I started helping her with the Cinnaminson Municipal Alliance. I mean, there's not as many teachers that I would have such a close relationship with than Miss Kim, because I mean, she cared about everybody that would fly through those B22 doors, man. Like, that class, I mean, that computer lab would be like a whirlwind of people coming in and out. She always would ask me how I was doing, always wondering how everything was going on, and the pressure that I would put on myself by taking almost all AP this year. But I wouldn't have got through this year without Miss Kim, and I thank her so much. Thank you, Miss Kim. Mr. Campbell and Miss Leeds were our class of 2020 class advisors, and all I gotta say is that both of these two people were amazing, and over the whole course of high school, I remember we had to do a Secret Santa for student council. That was my freshman year, and Mr. Campbell got me one of these snackies things. Cheers. It was a good gift, by the way. I still use it. So, I mean, and Miss Elite's always one of the nicest teachers in this school. Like, always greeted me with them. Always greeted me with a smile, and I appreciated that so much. I mean, besides that, their leadership was pivotal into our class turning it around. Because I remember sophomore year, we did terrible in pep rally, and Mr. Campbell got everybody together and told us that we got to show our spirit, we got to turn things around. And we couldn't have won and beat the juniors, who were hell-bent on beating us this year, without Mr. Campbell and Miss Leeds. Thank you. To all the teachers that have helped me along the way. The 4 years have been nothing short of great for me, even though the current pandemic kind of took away the latter part of our senior year. But all I gotta say is that class 2020, we're battle tested, we're ready for the future, and all I gotta say is I thank everybody's teachers, staff that's done anything in this high school to make the school what it is. These 720 days will not be forgotten.